Hi friends, this is Salojin here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good. And today the topic I'm going to discuss about how to configure Fortigate firewall in a active passive mode. Okay, so I'm going to configure both this firewall in a cluster mode. So the cluster is in active passive. So one will be in acting as active and other is in passive, right? So one will be acting as a primary and other will be acting as secondary. So whenever the primary goes on, automatically secondary will take over the active role. So that is the purpose of active passive. And also we can configure the FortiGate firewall in an active scenario. So normally the active scenario will use for load balancing purpose. So in this architecture I connected two FortiGate firewall 1 and 2 via physical link. One IP is 192.168.1.1 and 1.2 and the physical port is port 1, and both of these firewall port 2 I connect to the cloud. This is for accessing the GUI of firewall 1 and 2. Okay, so this IP is 84.50 and 84.51. So today through GUI I'm going to show you how to configure firewall in an active passive cluster mode. Okay, so now before that, prior to the configuration, let us configure the directly connected interfaces. So this IP, let us configure this port 1 and port 2 IP address. Then through GUI we'll configure the HA, what we call as high availability. That means I'm going to configure the FortiGate firewalls in an active passive mode. Okay, so firewall 1 will be configured as an active and firewall 2 will be configured as a passive mode. So now let us go to the firewall 1 and let us configure the basic interface. And we already know how to configure the basic interface, that is config system interface, edit port 1, and this is the IP, edit port 1, and we have to set the static mode, and then we have to set the static IP as 192.168.1.1. okay, this one IP is 1.1, and I'm going to allow the ping access, and afterwards then I'm going to allow this port 2, this for accessing the GUI of this firewall, FortiGate firewall 1. So the IP will be 192.168.84.50. okay, so let us finish off the interface configuration. Then we'll access GUI of firewall 1 and 2. We'll configure the firewall in an active passive mode. Okay, so let us go here. Let us copy both this configuration and let us configure the physical interface. Copy and paste it on the first firewall. Okay, so now let us save the configuration and let us view the running configuration. Show system interface port 1, that is 192.168.1.1, and 84.50 is for accessing the GUI, 84.50. okay, so this one will make it as 84.50. so the first type is 84.50. okay, so system interface port 2, so this is 84.50, and the second firewall I'm going to configure as 1.2. this IP is 1.2 port 1, and the GUI IP is 84.51. so let us finish off the second firewall interface configuration also. So IP is 1.2, for GUI it is 84.51. okay, so let us copy this and paste it on the second firewall. So let us log in with the credentials and paste it on the second firewall. So now we are good to go. So now let us ping the physical interface 1.1 and 1.2. Then I'm going to open the Chrome browser and I'm going to access the GUI. Okay, so let us finish off this configuration. Execute ping 192.168.1.2. I'm able to access the physical interface IP. So this ping connectivity is fine. So now let us open the Chrome browser and access the firewall 1. Okay, so 192.168.84.50 is the first firewall, right? And the second firewall is 84.51, right? 192.168.84.51 is the second firewall. Okay, so first firewall, let us log in. There is 84.50. okay, so let us log in with the credentials. And also the second firewall also we log in with the credentials. Okay, so I'm going to configure the first firewall in an active mode and the second firewall in the passive mode through the GUI configuration. Okay, so what we can do for firewall, let us take firewall 1 and the course name is port 1. So go to system and HA is nothing but a high availability, and let us configure. So there are several mode like standby mode, active and active passive. So I'm going to configure the mode, high availability mode as active passive. So let us click active passive, and this firewall I'm going to forcibly use it as a primary or the master, or we can call it as the active mode. So what I'm going to do, so in case of Fortigate firewall, this what we call it as a master, that is active, and this we call it as a slave, that is in passive mode. Okay, so this I'm going to configure with the highest priority. So by default the priority is 128. So let us configure this primary as master as highest priority. Okay, and also we have to configure the group name. So both these firewalls will be having the same group name. So let us configure as grp1 because both the firewall I'm going to put it in the cluster mode. Group name is group1 and the same configuration let us copy to the second firewall also. Okay, what to do? Go to system HA high availability and active passive mode. Okay, the device priority, this we have set it as 130 because this I'm going to configure as a primary or master, and this will be a slave, and default let it go to the default priority. Okay, so because first one I'm going to configure as a master, and the group name I'm going to do the same group name, and also additionally we have to enable this heartbeat interfaces, otherwise it will ask the field is required. So the heartbeat interfaces should be this port 1. Okay, so let us go to heartbeat interface and click port 1, and similar way let us do here also on the secondary firewall also, because for both the firewall I'm doing at a one stage configuration, then we'll save it. Okay, so active passive, this is also an active passive mode, only difference is the priority I set it as 130. Now let us click OK on the primary firewall and also on the secondary firewall also. So now what will happen? This will be acting as a master and this will be acting as a slave. That what we call it as active passive. And automatically what are the configuration changes? Automatically it will sync to the secondary or the master slave firewall. Okay. So now let us how to view the configuration. So now let us view the configuration to check whether the GU take place the effect. Okay. So already it is in active passive mode, and this heartbeat interface we have done port 1, and there is a one more configuration is pending. What is that? It's preempt feature. Okay, so let us go to firewall 1 and let us go to this firewall and do edit. Okay, so here there is a command called session pickup. So let us enable the session pickup also and click OK. And similar configuration I need to do for the secondary firewall also. I will tell you what is the purpose of session pickup. So okay, so let us go here to the secondary firewall. This command let us enable on the secondary firewall also. So let us go here. Okay, and config system HA. So set session pickup enable. So what that means is actually it is like a preempt feature. Whenever the primary goes on, the secondary will take over the master role. So as per the Fortigate firewall, this we call it as a master and this will call it as a slave. So whenever the master goes down, slave will take over the master role, right? So in case if I want to always restore the primary to the master role after reboot also, so always the firewall with the highest priority will take over the master role. When this comes up automatically, this will be acting as a master, just like a preempt feature in HSRP. So for that reason, I'm using that session pickup enable on both firewall 1 and 2. Okay. So system HA, this is a thing, and for secondary also, let us view the configuration. Show system HA. So only difference is the primary, I set the priority as 130 because this I want to act as a primary or the master, and this I want to act as a secondary or slave. Okay, so that is the reason I have not set the priority, and by default it will take the priority as 128. Okay, so now for checking the HA status, so now you are able to see slave succeeded to sync external files with the master. What that means is that means this slave configuration automatically it synced up with the master configuration. Okay, so now let us check the status. Okay, get system HA status. So this will show the status. You are able to see primary, this is port 1, it is selected as a master, and slave, this is selected as a slave. That means this secondary firewall is selected as slave and this is selected as a master. Let us go to GUI and just click this HA again. So now after some time you can see here this will be elected as a, so you are this also you can show green for after some time. Okay, so this you are able to see, right? Port 1 is elected as a master with the priority 130, and this is elected as a slave with the priority 120 default priority. So let us pause the video for some time. Automatically you can see both will be showing the green color. So now you can see here the slave start to sync with the master, log out all admin users. That means automatically the slave now start to sync with the master. So now the secondary firewall is ready for the operation. That means what does it mean is whenever the primary goes on, automatically secondary will take over the, or the slave will take over the master role. That means what are the configurations is there? it will automatically sync to the slave firewall. Okay, so this is ready for the operation whenever this goes down. So that is the purpose. Now let us log in with the credentials admin and port, and now let us check the status from the GUI. Let us just click the HA operation, and now you're able to see both are showing the green color. The firewall 1 with the highest priority is elected as a master, and firewall 2, that is 4.2, with the lowest default priority elected as a slave. And how we can check the status is get system HA status. So this you are able to see it is selected as a master and the slave, and here also you can say slave configuration, slave start to sync with the masters. Now let us check. So get system HA status. So that means it's automatically synced with the, so here you are able to see this is slave and this is master. That is 4.2 is slave and this is a master, and both are in the cluster, and both we are successfully configured in the active passive mode. So now what I'm going to do, let us now reboot this firewall. Automatically you can see here this slave will take over the master role. That means it's ready for the acting as a master, right? So now let us just do a reboot for the primary firewall. Okay, so let us now, before that, what are the commands is show system HA is for checking the configuration from the CLI mode, and for checking the sync status get system HA status. So this is a command to check the status. So you're able to see it is all, this is elected as a master because it has the largest value of override priority. Okay, let us now check from here also get system HA status. So here you are able to see this firewall is elected as a master because it has the largest priority. That means this primary firewall. So now I'm going to reboot this master firewall. The slave will be converted as acting as a master. Okay. So now what's the command is execute reboot. So okay, just reboot the primary. Automatically you can see here this will be acting as a master role. This will be acting as a master role, so you're able to see automatically change to the master state. Okay, so that is the purpose of configuring the active. Always one will be acting as the active and other will be acting as a passive, and the configuration will be always synced from the primary or the master to the slave, and whenever the master goes down, automatically the slave will take over the master role. So that is the purpose of this configuration. And also keep it in mind, after sync what will happen, always you can access only one of the firewall. That means automatically both will be synced to the same particular IP. So only one through one IP you can access the GUI, right? So that always you have to keep it in mind. And also for restoring after reboot, so if you want to reboot both the firewall, automatically the firewall with the highest priority will be acting as again master, and this will be acting as a slave operation. So that is the purpose of configuring active passive in a cluster mode. So what are things we have done is, now let us check the reboot. So now it already rebooted, right? So now let us check the status admin fort. Okay, so now I'm going to check the status execute. Okay, so get system HA status. So now you're able to see this is always, this previously it was master, now it is acting as a slave. And also let us check this. So now this is acting as a master. So this is acting as a slave and this is acting as a master. So to take the effect, what you have to do, you have to reboot both the firewall. So thus this firewall with the highest priority will be acting as a master again, and this will be acting as a slave. Why? Because of the this command, that is the session pickup. So this is the like equivalent to preempt operation. So only thing is this, for this operation to take effect, what you have to do, you have to reboot both the firewalls so that this will be acting as a master and this will be acting as a slave again. So that is the purpose of configuring the active cluster mode. So now let us check the configuration. Show system interface port 2. So this is 84.50 and show system interface port 2. So this is also you're able to see both are in the same IP. So previously we have configured for our purpose, what you have done, this we have configured as 84.50 and 84.51. So once the particular active and passive are in sync with each other, automatically you can access only one firewall through GUI, that is 84.50, because automatically this will be in sync with the primary firewall and automatically this will have the same IP. So that is the purpose of configuring the active passive in a cluster mode. So either we can configure the active passive, or also we can configure the Fortigate firewall in a active mode. So active mode is for load balancing scenario, and active passive is for just a just like HSRP feature. Whenever the primary goes down, secondary gateway will take over the active role. Similar way, so one is elected as a master and slave. So when the master goes down, the slave will take over the active role. So that's all about this video, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos. Thanks and have a wonderful day. Thank you.